And that's something to really guard against.
Yeah, and certainly when you see pictures as things reopen, you do see people getting sloppy. I was reading a story on the Bloomberg about, I think, one of our reporters who took a flight and, there were certainly social distancing and things get in place. But then when there was all of a sudden a flight change, like all of a sudden everybody's crammed next to each other and it's very easy to go back to the ways. I do want to, Dr. Letterman, you guys are working on a vaccine. So tell us where you are, what's the timeline you're working on, and what kind of a vaccine it could ultimately be.
Oh, thank you. Our vaccine is a live replicating vaccine, and that's a particular kind of vaccine that stimulates T-cell immunity. Mm-hmm. Ours is based on the oldest vaccine. It's the same vaccine that eradicated smallpox from the world. And the core that we're working on is about 220 years old. And we're using that as a vector to carry a piece of the COVID-19 pathogen in it. And we are expecting to be in animal studies in the second half of this year. And that will determine how quickly we can get into humans. But we're hoping it can be in 2021.
Well, here's hoping. I mean, we're all looking forward to that in many ways. And as you have very well set out, Dr. Letterman, it is the path back toward something that looks much more normal. Dr. Seth Letterman is the CEO of Tonix Pharmaceuticals, joining us on the phone from Massachusetts. They are, of course, a clinical stage biopharma company, and they're working on a vaccine. And I liked what he was able to explain to us in terms of the types of vaccines that are out there. And there is the most concerted effort, I think, we've certainly seen in our lifetimes to eradicate anything.
Right.
Carol, it's fair to say.
I hope we stay in touch, because I thought the science of explaining the different, because we know that there's a lot of different vaccines being worked on. And I know they just had signed a deal to support the manufacturing of their vaccine candidate. But I'd love to touch base as this progresses, because certainly I really do feel like we got a lot of the science holes filled in on what we need to know as, individuals who are trying to get back out into our society. All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, a really cool story that's in the magazine this week. It's all about Shopify. In the meantime, Jason?
Let's get down to D.C. Nancy Lyons is there with World and National Headlines.
Thanks, Jason. President Trump today is alleging without substantiation that an elderly protester who was shoved to the ground and seriously injured by police in Buffalo, New York, was a provocateur who exaggerated his fall. That tweet from the president has prompted a swift rebuke from New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
How reckless, how irresponsible, how mean, how crude. I mean, if there was ever a reprehensible, dumb comment.
The 75-year-old man in the video has been identified as an activist and a member of the Western New York Peace Center. The government estimates Americans have been defrauded of $48 million and counting in scams related to the coronavirus. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman has more from Washington.
U.S. Attorney Craig Carbonato told the Senate Judiciary Committee about price gouging of such supplies as surgical masks.
A bunch of interlopers in the market came in, obtained mass quantities, raised the prices, and price gouged. These masks went from being 50, 60 cents a piece to selling for $7, $8, as high as $25 in some cases. The Defense Production Act makes it illegal to price gouge, and we've opened up a series of investigations.
Some of the fraud related to sales of phony treatments to prevent or cure COVID-19. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
Well, the U.S. government is trying to stop a company's planned salvage mission to retrieve the Titanic's wireless telegraph machine. The expedition is planned for August. Federal attorneys are arguing the expedition would break federal law. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Debbie Hart is president of BioNJ, which represents the interests of more than 400 New Jersey-based biotech companies. She's also a strong voice in the biotech sector, supporting research universities like New Jersey Institute of Technology. She sees NJIT as a valuable partner in attracting venture capital and biotech startups to the Garden State.
So the number one reason that companies come here to New Jersey for the biotech industry is for our talent. We estimate that there were about 30 biotech companies in the early 90s in New Jersey, about 80 in 1998. Today there are more than 400. And that growth continues, and it's come from every possible angle. Other countries, other states, they've spun out of our academic institutions as well as our biotech and our pharma companies, and we expect that growth to continue long into the future. And NJIT is a pipeline for talent, for companies, for entrepreneurs to do that important work.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
It's a stock.
This is a message from the government about the emergency measures to support the economy during the period of disruption caused by the coronavirus. To help you, your business, and your workers affected, you can apply for cash grants, business rate holidays, statutory sick pay relief packages, as well as the coronavirus job retention and self-employment income support schemes. For information, go to gov.uk/business-support now.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other, about our planet, about creating a better world for everyone, and becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
How do you keep track of all your favorite stations and podcasts? Easy. You add them to your favorites list. Just find the audio you want to bookmark and tap the heart icon. Then, whenever you want to browse your favorites, you'll find everything under the Favorites tab.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
He does! Fabry wins it!
To standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
Want to relive the glory of college football?
Balls over a man, into the end zone.
Come explore TuneIn's classic game replay collection to hear ESPN's complete coverage of the 2019 New Year's 6 bowl games. Don't miss your chance to re-experience the Rose Bowl, the 2020 National Championship, featuring Clemson and LSU.
There are going to be 2 champions on the field tomorrow night. There's going to be 1 team hold up the trophy.
Plays to the 5! Touchdown! Search classic game replays to listen for free.
Are you ready for the realest first-hand take of what's happening in the NBA? On their podcast, All the Smoke, former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson bring their fiery intensity to the mic, dishing on the latest news and drama from on and off the court without boundaries.
Half man, half amazing. My friend, our brother, Vince Carter, man. Welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's up, my brother?
Man,
Search All the Smoke on TuneIn to listen.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games.
Bergeron, he scores!
With game replay on TuneIn, you can listen to every power play, slap shot, and goal of the 2019-2020 season so far.
Suter to Cunnin to Fiala. He scores!
For a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search classic game replays to start listening.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast, Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game, from rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Stocks continue to trade mixed. They have paired losses as a rally in technology giants offsets concerns over valuations and economic prospects. Apple, for example, rallying by 3%. NASDAQ up 40, a gain of 0.4%. NASDAQ 100 index did trade above 10,000 for the first time ever. S&P down 20, a drop of 0.6%. The Dow now slumping 244 points, a decline there of 0.9%. 10 years up 14.30 seconds, yield 0.82%. Gold up 1%, 17.15 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude now up 2% at 39.10 a barrel. American Airlines Group says it will take 141 aircraft from storage to support an increase in July service as travelers return to the skies faster than expected amid the coronavirus pandemic. American Airlines shares, they're down along with the rest of the airline group today. American down by 10.5%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly and Carol Masser. And I am really excited to talk about this next story and with this reporter, in part because, as you know, Carol, love talking to bureau chiefs. Bureau chiefs are the best. Just saying.
Doing your chiefing.
Do the chiefing. Natalie Obuko-Pearson is our Vancouver bureau chief for Bloomberg. She joins us on the phone from that gorgeous city. And her story I'm so excited about. Shopify, because, I mean, this is a juggernaut in Canada, and I really want to understand how it's gotten there and what may be next. Natalie, really nice to have you with us. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about Shopify. Remind us what this is and how it has become so important so fast.
It's this really odd Canadian story, this very big company that a lot of people have never heard of. It's remained mostly invisible to consumers, but it's become the sort of platform of choice for any business that wants to get online quickly and cheaply. And obviously, since the beginning of the year with the pandemic, there's been a lot of businesses that suddenly want to get online very quickly and very cheaply. So essentially what it is, starting with a monthly fee of about $29, you can set up a virtual shop and everything that's needed to run it. So, manage things like payments, inventory levels, shipping. And we've seen, mega brands from like Heinz, the ketchup maker, to Heineken, the beer maker, have built their online presence on Shopify, down to like a small florist in Dublin. And one thing that's key to note about Shopify is it's essentially for those businesses that don't want to be selling on Amazon. So if you want to go online and keep control of your online shop and your e-commerce presence, you're going to go to something like Shopify and set it up on that platform. And so today in the U.S., one of the world's biggest e-commerce markets, if you're buying anything online that's not on Amazon, it's most likely done on a website that's been powered by Shopify.
And they've been powered by the lockdown and the virus, right? As a lot of people quickly pivoted to digital.
That's right. So since the start of the pandemic, I think it was their chief technical officer who was saying something like they were seeing Black Friday levels of traffic every day. All these businesses wanting to suddenly set up an e-commerce shop. And, one example actually was Heinz, this 150-year-old food brand that had resisted selling online for a very long time. But in the UK, as British consumers were suddenly struggling to find pantry staples, they did this about face. It was this very speedy e-commerce pivot. They within a week they had a virtual shop online selling pasta hoops and tomato soup and so on. And so that has been replicated in many geographies. And I think it was they saw like a 62% surge in store creations over a 6-week period.
I mean, it's unbelievable, too, the juggernaut it's become on the public markets, vying with Royal Bank of Canada as the biggest publicly traded company. I mean, it's bigger than Uber, right? I mean, which I feel is like the thing that, that's the thing that you just have to say to anybody in 2019 or 2020, and that gets their attention.
It's crazy, and speaking for Canadians, it's crazy for Canadians.
Right,
this massive juggernaut.
It's an $89 billion market cap company.
Yeah,
that's great. It's a behemoth. I mean, it helped flog $61 billion worth of goods in 2019. Its market value exceeds that of General Electric, and yet so few people outside of Canada have ever even heard of it.
Right.
So go ahead. Well, I was thinking that, all right, so we look at Amazon. We all know Amazon, right? We use it constantly. Does Amazon have to be worried? I mean, what's the difference, the biggest difference between these two?
Yeah, and that's a great question because I think, a lot of people who are aware of Shopify tend to compare it with Amazon. One key difference is that if you're a merchant and you want to sell your stuff online, Amazon might be an easy choice, but you kind of lose control. Once you put your wares up on Amazon, you're sort of relying on Amazon to get the web traffic to your virtual store, and then Amazon sort of takes over the fulfillment of those orders. And what we actually saw during the pandemic was that as Amazon became overwhelmed, it was prioritizing essential goods. So those merchants who were selling non-essential goods were suddenly finding that they were getting orders, but they couldn't fulfill them. And so that actually helped direct some traffic over to Shopify, where you are in control of your online shop. And the other thing to note is that, Shopify is much more than just selling a few things online. Like, it's evolved. And so essentially now it's sort of a one-stop shop for a business. So during the pandemic, it helped merchants set up curbside pickup. It helped them find ways to set up local delivery. It's also expanding social media. So it set up these partnerships with Facebook and Pinterest because one of the biggest problems for businesses is finding new customers, especially if these people aren't walking by your store every day. How do you find new customers? So then it's trying to expand social media as just another way to do online shopping. And in the past, what we've seen is businesses have to kind of cobble together different applications to manage these different channels. Well, Shopify really simplifies that for you. It's saying, you come to us, we will help you set that all up, and you can see the entirety of your business from this one platform.
And it's still your site, right? Or is it on Shopify?
Shopify is sort of provides the plumbing, but if you are a consumer and you go to that site, you will never see Shopify anywhere unless you go into the code. It looks like, Victoria Beckham's clothing line, or it looks like Heinz online store.
Cool.
So, Natalie, before we let you go, got to ask, obviously all of our behavior has changed on the consumer side, and behavior has clearly changed on the merchant side. How much does Shopify need for some version of this to continue, for this behavior change to continue in order to be as successful as it has been?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that's where the skeptics have come in, because when you look at some of these multiples, they're sort of reminiscent of the internet boom at its frothiest period. Its share price has just totally gone stratospheric. And so the one big question is this rush of merchants that came online. Is that necessarily new demand that's going to sustain, or is it businesses that might have eventually come online anyway? So are they is Shopify borrowed from future demand, so to speak? The other big question is how many of the small merchants that have rushed onto Shopify to set up online shops are going to survive? Because we saw after the global financial crisis, thousands of them never recovered, and consumer spending may yet collapse. So, I think one analyst put it, the Shopify gained a lot of market share with the pandemic, but its biggest risk may actually be meeting investors' expectations. Like, it's a huge amount of pressure to have that enormous share price surge.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's a great story, a must read. It's on the Bloomberg and on Bloomberg.com today. It'll be in the upcoming edition of Bloomberg Business Week. Natalie Obico-Pearson, Vancouver Bureau Chief for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from Vancouver. And for those of you listening in New York, D.C., San Francisco, watching on YouTube, Bloomberg Business Week continues. If you're listening to 106.1 in Boston, Bay State Business, that's coming up next.
Can my employer change my contract?
Am I entitled to statutory sick pay?
What is holiday pay?
When can I take annual leave?
Is my employer allowed to change the hours I work?
How do I raise an issue with my employer?
Right now, it's important to know your rights in the workplace. At ACAS, we're here to help with free impartial advice. Visit us today at acas.org.uk/rights at work.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
Wondering what to play next? Want to know what other TuneIn listeners are listening to right now? Head to the trending section under Browse to explore the most popular stations and podcasts on TuneIn today. Millions of listeners like you can't be wrong.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
He does! Fabry wins it!
To standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
Want to relive the glory of college football?
Balls over a man, into the end zone.
Come explore TuneIn's classic game replay collection to hear ESPN's complete coverage of the 2019 New Year's 6 bowl games. Don't miss your chance to re-experience the Rose Bowl, the 2020 National Championship, featuring Clemson and LSU.
There are going to be 2 champions on the field tomorrow night. There's going to be 1 team hold up the trophy.
Plays to the 5! Touchdown!
Search classic game replays to listen for free.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading. We've got U.S. equities trading mixed with the Dow, the S&P both lower. NASDAQ higher, climbing to another record. S&P down 15 now, a drop of 0.5%. The Dow is down 207, lower by 0.8%. Technology getting a lift, and NASDAQ surging 55 points, up by 0.6%. Year to date, NASDAQ is up 11.2%. To put that in context, the S&P showing a loss now of 0.4%. NASDAQ 100 index did trade briefly above the 10,000 threshold. Apple climbing on a news report. It is preparing to announce a shift to its own main processors in Mac computers. Apple shares, they're trading higher, up by 3.1%. Well, this is a Fed Tuesday as Federal Reserve policymakers begin their 2-day meeting. We'll get the announcement tomorrow. Andrew Sheets is Chief Cross-Asset Strategist at Morgan Stanley.
I think for the moment, the incentives for the Fed and the European Central Bank are to remain very dovish, to err on the side of caution. You don't know if there will be a second or a third wave of the virus. You don't know how long the economic impact will be, so it makes sense to remain extremely accommodative.
Small business optimism rebounded from a 7-year low in May. The data from the National Federation of Independent Business show more firms are anticipating conditions will improve as economic lockdowns are lifted. Sources tell Bloomberg Delta Airlines is in talks to let Brazilian carrier Gold postpone payments on a $300 million loan for which Delta is the guarantor. It's a tough day for a lot of the airline names. Delta, for example, down 8.3%. UAL down 8.8%. American American Airlines now lower by 10%. Southwest among the big four, dropping by 6.5%. Also trading lower today, Boeing. Sources tell Bloomberg that Boeing didn't sell or deliver any of its marquee 787 Dreamliner jets in May. Again, recapping, equities trading mixed with the S&P down now by 16 points. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's do a little Business Week economics now. It's a big week, the first day of the Fed meeting. Tomorrow, right around this time, we'll be in the midst of hearing from none other than Fed Chair Jay Powell, the lending and spending tour of 2020. Just get on board, Carol. It's the hottest ticket in town. Yeah. Help us understand what we may hear tomorrow and what the underlying economic conditions are is our own Yelena Shalecheva, senior U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics, joining us on the phone from Long Island. So, Yelena, help us understand sort of the backdrop here, because it feels like every single investor, every analyst we talk to basically goes, well, the Fed did this and the Fed did that. And, you know, the Fed has sort of ridden in to save the day with a little fiscal stimulus to boot from the Congress. But where does the Fed stand right now, especially given the economy that we're seeing?
Yes, hi, Jason. So I think what's interesting, obviously, as the Fed began their meeting today is where economic data are as opposed to where financial conditions are. So while financial conditions substantially improved, the data between the April and June FOMC meetings continue to show weak economic activity. So one payrolls report is probably not going to change how the Fed is looking at economic conditions. And that is what really goes into their deliberations and how they view the outlook. So this week, this time, we will get a new set of forecasts, economic forecasts for the economy going into the next couple of years. Last time the Fed did it was back in December. They omitted forecasting what is going to happen in March, and now they're reintroducing this forecast. So it will be interesting to see not even like the median forecast, but rather the range of possible outcomes for the economy.
Yeah, we were talking earlier with Gina Martin Adams about the outlook in terms of earnings and estimates and kind of what's out there, trying to get, a good feel of how maybe, much the equity markets have run ahead of themselves. I do wonder, when you look at the bond market, what does it tell us? And I feel like it's always a good indicator of what's to come. Do you think the bond market is reading things correctly right now, Yelena?
I don't think the markets in general are reading things correctly at this point, because I think there's a huge gap between how the markets are viewing the outlook and what is really happening in the economy. I think the economy, the fundamentals remain much, much weaker, and I think really the Fed will continue to remain very dovish in their assessment of the medium-term economic outlook. Yeah. If you look at personal income and where the wages are relative to, wage income in general, where they were before the crisis, the trend where it was before the crisis and what is happening right now, you will see a huge gap between those two things. So what is really helping economic growth at this point, and maybe that's why we see some nascent signs of the recovery, is policy support. And that needs to continue for the economy to continue to recover.
Well, we know, come on, Yelena, right, Jason, we're going to be covering it right here on Bloomberg Radio. Obviously the Fed decision and then the press conference and Jay Powell's statement. But I expect he's going to get tons of questions about that jobs report. And I do wonder, too, the balance he has to do, especially when we're now kind of hearing out of policymakers in Congress that maybe there won't be any more relief coming for individuals. And we know it's still a very tricky situation for individuals.
I wonder who will ask this question first, and whether this will be the first or the second question during the press conference. The question about the payrolls report. He will undoubtedly be asked that question, and I think that Chair Powell will take a very cautious tone and will just say that this is just one data point. Obviously, he will acknowledge it's a positive development, but then, I don't think the Fed will jump and just say, okay, this is really, something really positive is happening in the economy. I think, in contrast, they will continue to talk about different downside risks to the economy, such as insufficient support of policy that could lower productivity growth, worker skills atrophy, and things like that. So I think this is really premature for the Fed to declare victory.
All right, Yelena Shalecheva, thank you so much. Always good to catch up with you, and we know you'll be watching all of that closely, as we will tomorrow. Yelena Shalecheva, senior U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics, joining us on the phone. So, Carol, I did want to point out a story on this topic that
I know.
I'm not sure.
Brian Chapata's story?
Brian Chapata's column, but also the story by Matt Bosler as well, sort of a companion piece, which essentially says, and I do wonder if Jay Powell's going to get this question, which is, hey, listen, you guys have done a great job propping up the economy. We've seen that in the financial markets, but that jobs data also reminded us of the gross inequities when it comes to white workers and minority workers.
We talked about it with Stephen Skenke yesterday, right? And said that the Fed is constantly watching these kinds of indicators, and they, keep an eye on it. And I do wonder,
but what can they do about it? Like, it's cool that they're keeping an eye on it, but what do they do about it? I think is going to be one of the questions.
They are very much in touch with the entire financial system of the country. So, maybe they've got to be talking to the big banks and the financial community to do more things to maybe help out the disadvantaged, because I think that they get, whether it's predatory lending, whether it's, there's things that happen that I think where certain groups are targeted. I don't mean to just,
I wonder
single out banks.
If they don't push it down to some of the regional Fed presidents. It's a question. I'd love to talk to Steve Matthews about this on our team.
Oh, that's a good idea.
He covers the Atlanta Fed and a number of the other regional Fed banks. He's done a lot of smart writing about some of the regional economies where this is especially stark. So it's a question for him. Maybe I'll bring him up.
I just think everybody has a role in this, no doubt about it. All right, let's get back to World and National News headlines. Back on over to Nancy Lyons, Internet 91 newsroom in the nation's capital. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Carol. Here's where you can find strength beneath his wings. They are remembering George Floyd in Houston, the final memorial service before he's buried next to his mother. Former Vice President Joe Biden spoke to mourners and the Floyd family through a video.
Unlike most, you must grieve in public. And it's a burden. A burden that is now your purpose to change the world for the better. In the name of George Floyd.
Houston officials say a horse-drawn carriage will carry Floyd's casket to Houston Memorial Gardens. One of the 4 Minneapolis police officers involved in George Floyd's death says he did what he could to keep Floyd alive. Earl Gray is the attorney for Thomas Lane.
While Mr. Floyd was moving, Lane asked, should we roll him on his side? And Officer Chauvin said, no, staying put where we got him. Now, we've got a 20-year officer here, and you got a 4-day officer in my client.
Lane has been charged along with 2 other officers with aiding and abetting murder. Officer Chauvin, whose knee was on Floyd's neck, has been charged with second-degree murder without intent, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Well, the FCC is proposing a $225 million fine, its largest ever, against 2 health insurance telemarketers for spamming people with 1 billion robocalls using fake phone numbers. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
Business and finance have always held surprises, but this is brand new.
The move risks fueling more demonstrations, and Stokes' concerned that essential freedoms will be curbed.
Karen Muskow and Nathan Hager.
Chinese lawmakers approved national security legislation.
Expert navigation through uncharted territory.
Tell us the range of outcomes that we could see on that front.
Bloomberg Daybreak, weekday mornings at 5 Eastern. On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies. Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
At Bloomberg,
where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care about each other, about our planet, about creating a better world for everyone, and becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
There's a reason flash storage is called flash storage and not electronic non-volatile computer memory storage. From quick and efficient data retrieval to instant scalability, everything about IBM flash storage is fast. It's also cloud-ready and surprisingly affordable, with a recommended monthly price of £310 for 24 terabytes of all flash. Order by the 30th of June and pay nothing for 90 days. Find out more at ibm.biz/flash offer.
This is a message from the government about the next stage of controlling coronavirus with NHS Test and Trace. To protect your friends and family, testing and tracing must become a new way of life. If you have symptoms, you need to get a test immediately. Don't leave home for any other reason. If you test positive, we will contact you to trace people who you might have infected. From now on, if you're told you've been exposed to an infected person, you must self-isolate for 14 days. Play your part and do the right thing so we can safely return to a more normal life. Go to nhs.uk or call 119. Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
At Asda, we're helping you shop safely by keeping our stores clean and limiting customer numbers so you can keep 2 meters apart. With our Scan and Go mobile app, you can reduce contact at the till too. Asda, we're all in this together. Subject to availability, mobile data charges may apply.
To help keep you and your loved ones safe, TuneIn has the latest guidelines from the CDC. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Remember, 6 feet, it's the rule. Stay your distance and always wear a mask while you're out. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. For the latest stories and updates on COVID-19, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
He does! Fabry wins it!
To standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
Want to relive the glory of college football?
Pulls over a man into the end zone.
Come explore TuneIn's classic game replay collection to hear ESPN's complete coverage of the 2019 New Year's 6 ball games. Don't miss your chance to re-experience the Rose Bowl, the 2020 National Championship, featuring Clemson and LSU.
There's going to be 2 champions on the field tomorrow night. There's going to be 1 team hold up the trophy.
10, plays to the 5, touchdown!
Search classic game replays to listen for free. Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Stocks are trading mixed. NASDAQ pushing higher. NASDAQ 100 index briefly back above 10,000. Let's head right over to the First Word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, working from home, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. Like you said, U.S. stocks trading mixed today as the FANG stocks do outperform. Dow's currently down 189 points. S&P's dropped 13. NASDAQ is higher by 65. And FANG stocks are up 1.3% as Amazon hit a new record high. The U.S. 10-year yield at 0.83%. WTI crude futures are up 1.9%. Gold trades higher by 15. And transports fall 235 points. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Apple and Microsoft, while Boeing fell 5% and led to the downside. On the IPO front, Vroom opened up at $40.25. IPO is priced at $22. And in deal news, Cloudera is set to explore a sale. Shares rose as much as 23%. Wrapping things up, online pet retailer Chewy reports after the bell. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, on Bill Maloney. Charlie?
Okay, I thank you very much, Bill Maloney. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type Squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right. Thank you, Charlie, so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, it's time now to dig into the Small Business Survival Guide. It's an effort that our colleagues at Bloomberg Business Week have been undertaking. It's very useful to understand kind of what small businesses are doing throughout all of this. Leading the charge is Dimitra Kesanides, editor for Bloomberg. She joins us on the phone from New Jersey, along with Aisata Marsh. She is the owner of Studio Phenomenon Hair Salon, on the phone as well. So, Dimitra, remind us what you're trying to do here. And, you know, it's interesting. This obviously started, you know, primarily to look at COVID-19 and the aftermath there. But obviously the world got a lot more complicated and a lot more troubling in the past couple weeks. So I wonder how you guys thought about that pivot.
Sure. Hi, Jason. Yeah, of course, we were looking at small businesses through solely the lens of the virus. But even, the world is much more complicated today. Even if we solely look at the virus sort of kind of next stages, it's complicated because we're all in reopening phase, right? New York City, the big news of the last 2 days has been phase 1 reopening. We'll eventually move on to phase 2 and phase 3. Combined with social unrest, combined with what is happening in the world, how do you keep going? Do you have the money to keep going? Are your customers going to come back? How can you make your customers feel comfortable? So we, Nick Leiber, my colleague, who's a freelance contributor, and I have been talking to business owners, and he has been talking to Aisata Marsh, as we mentioned, about her business in Brooklyn. And it's a lot more complicated than many of us realize when it comes to something like a hair salon.
Well, and let's bring in Aisata Marsh, who joins us on the phone in Long Island. As Jason mentioned, she's owner of Studio Phenomenon Hair Salon. So, Aisata, talk to us about some of the challenges that you're facing. And it's really, twofold, minimally, between the virus and then, of course, the civil protests. And, you are a black business owner. So tell us about some of the challenges that you are seeing firsthand.
Okay, well, I'm located in the heart of Brooklyn. I serve a number of clients per week and have a number of individuals in my business space at any given time. People are scared. political, social messaging from respective leaders. They're conflicting. We don't know what to do. They need to have some type of economic state ground established, and things are confusing, hard to access. Like for me, I have to restructure my entire space. I have to lessen the people who work for me and actually distance from, they say 6 feet, I say 10 feet. People don't realize when you come inside of a salon or a space, you touch everything from the doorknob to the chair to the bathroom door to, it's very confusing. It's confusing for me as a business owner, confusing as a client, a customer, and my demographics range from age 17 to 79. So I have to be very wary of my older clientele because I don't want them to get sick because they're right at the war zone of the virus affecting them. So it's very difficult. I'm at wit's end on what exactly is real or not. I myself went and took a COVID-19 test. It came back negative. And some people say it's a negative positive result. It'll come back negative, COVID-19, but then they'll swab their nose and it'll come back positive. So this whole thing is absolutely confusing. I don't know. I mean, each client that comes in, I have to mask up myself. I have to give them a mask. It's just this whole everyday, socialization with people. It feels like literally I have to retrain myself. It's like learning how to read or do first or second grade math. You have to retrain everything that you thought was normal to make it the norm.
Right. So I started just shifting gears slightly. I mean, so you're in the process of doing all of this, and then, here comes the last 2 weeks, which have totally turned the world upside down. And I wonder how you view that, as a resident, as a business owner, but also as a human being and candidly as a mother.
Right. Well, it's hard. As a business owner, I shut my place down in March because there was so many mixed messages that were going on. I'm a news watcher, CNN, MSNBC. I watch the news just to know current events and things that are happening in the world today. So it went from the higher ups, the president, this virus is nothing, to, it's only 15, to, it's going to be gone on such and such a day. I had to really sit down and realize and tell myself, when they said there was possibility of shutting down a salon, I had to go into thinking mode. As other young business owners do, it's the hustle mode. Because when you're a young entrepreneur, everything is about hustle, hustle, hustle. So I've been in the business for over 20 years. So I had to rethink my situation, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, how am I going to service my customers. I went from actually doing hair to making wigs and trying to get my clients to buy the wig pieces just until this entire pandemic is over. So you have to rethink your brain.
Right. I saw it. We unfortunately have about 40 seconds left, but you do have 2 black sons, and we just want to get your perspective of the protest. And we apologize. We really do only have about 40 seconds here.
Yes. Okay. So as far as the protest going along, I'm a very avid believer with protests, and I stand by them 100%. The only thing that I don't like is dismantle of your own community. You can't come and protest and destroy your community, destroy your stores, destroy the places that you eat, work, and buy your food at. It's affecting the older generation. These people need prescription medications from the local pharmacy. They need to know where they can go buy their groceries in the morning. If you destroy things in your own community, there's nowhere else to go. My 2 black sons, yes, they have protested. One protested in New York, one protested in Miami. It's just a difference of demographics.
Well, listen, we're so glad we got time with you, and we do wish you well, and maybe we can check in with you again as things hopefully start to go back to normal. Ayasada Marsh, owner of Studio Phenomenon Hair Salon, on the phone in Long Island, along with our own Bloomberg News editor, Dimitra Kesanides. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I'm Jason. You're Jason Kelly. I'm Carol Masser. Together, we're Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. U.S. skies are about to become more crowded. American Airlines plans to take 141 Boeing and Airbus jets out of storage next month as it restores part of its flight schedule. It had parked 435 planes and retired 100 others as the pandemic slashed travel. Even as travel recovers, an airline trade group is forecasting a record industry loss this year of $84 billion. It's more than triple the loss during the Great Recession. It sees another $16 billion in losses next year. On Wall Street, it's been a mostly lower day as the market takes a breather from its recent run-up. Dow Industrials are down 218, the S&P 500 down 16, the Nasdaq is up 57. After a surprise turnaround in May, the U.S. labor market continues to heal this month. Researchers at the St. Louis Fed say that about half of the employment decline seen in mid-April had been made up by the end of last week. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
COVID-19. Can the world reopen for business?
Give us a sense of how you're ramping up and taking care of folks on the ground.
What's the long-term impact?
Why will we not see a V-shaped recovery?
When will there be a cure or a vaccine?
How can you model that at a time when it's unclear whether we're going to see a resurgence in viruses?
The answers will emerge.
Can you give us a sense of timing?
And you'll find them here. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. In-depth analysis.
Can my employer change my contract?
Am I entitled to statutory sick pay?
What is holiday pay?
When can I take annual leave?
Is my employer allowed to change the hours I work?
How do I raise an issue with my employer?
Right now, it's important to know your rights in the workplace. At ACAS, we're here to help with free impartial advice. Visit us today at acas.org.uk/rights at work.
If you can build that flat-pack wardrobe without looking at the instructions, you've still got it. If you can manage 5 keepy-uppies on your first go, you've without question still got it. If you can toss a pancake to the ceiling and not let it hit the floor, surely you've still got it. And if you can just about fit into those jeans you bought 5 years ago, you've definitely still got it. Brute, still got it.
Hi, I'm Dan from NatWest Manchester branch. We know life's hard right now, but if coronavirus has affected your finances, we're doing our best to make things easier. If you're a personal customer, you can request a 3-month payment break if you're struggling with your mortgage, loan or credit card. Or if you need help with an existing arranged overdraft, you could get £500 interest-free for 3 months. Remember, every one of us is here to support you. There are lots of ways we could help. Search NatWest Coronavirus.
Eligibility and conditions apply to payment breaks. Overdraft up to your agreed limit if lower than £500. At Asda, we're helping you shop safely by keeping our stores clean and limiting customer numbers so you can keep 2 meters apart. With our Scan and Go mobile app, you can reduce contact at the till too. Asda, we're all in this together. Subject to availability. Mobile data charges may apply.
Are you ready for the realest first-hand take of what's happening in the NBA? On their podcast, All the Smoke, former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson bring their fiery intensity to the mic, dishing on the latest news and drama from on and off the court without boundaries.
Half man, half amazing. My friend, our brother, Vince Carter, man, welcome to the show.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's up, my brother?
Man, I'm good.
Search All the Smoke on TuneIn to listen.
Okay, here we go.
With the NFL draft in the books and the schedule set, check out a TuneIn podcast for daily updates on the lead up to the 2020 season. Like the Ringer NFL show, where a rotating cast of Ringer experts talk with players, coaches, and special guests about the NFL landscape.
A lot of the other teams that we consider...
Or ESPN's NFL Live.
If there are some delays because of the COVID-19...
Search sports on TuneIn to explore these pods and much more.
First, we're told that masks don't work. Then, we're told to wear them all the time. One week, we hear that the mortality rate is 2%. The next, well, who knows? In the time of COVID-19, there is so much uncertainty, and so much scientists are learning in real time, along with the rest of the world. So it's hard to know what you can be sure of and what's still a big question mark. Enter Podcast 19 from 538, where we'll explore the evidence behind the science in our fight against coronavirus. I'm science journalist Anna Rothschild. Each week, I'll investigate coronavirus mysteries, keep track of the latest developments on vaccines and treatments, Oh, and I'll try to edit out all the times I shush my family since I'm recording this thing from the chaos of my home.
Search Podcast 19 to listen today.
Broadcasting live to New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, Dave Wilson will be along with his chart of the day. Carol?
Yeah. And it has to do with... I looked at it, actually. I think it was momentum or something.
That was yesterday.
Oh.
Momo, no.
Momo, yeah, maybe not. Okay,
Yeah.
something else. All right, anyway, we're going to get to it in just a moment, and a song coming your way in just a sec as well. Let's get back to your top business stories. Hey, Charlie Bella, 29 minutes to go. Different tone today, huh?
Very much so, but listen, consider where we have come, perhaps where we're going, giving back a little bit of that today, waiting for that song of the day. Meanwhile, NASDAQ waltzing higher. We've got the Dow, the S&P, they're both lower. NASDAQ Composite Index, it is trading higher, looking at a record there at higher by 66 points right now, up 0.7% at 99.90. In the year-to-date column, up 11.4% for all of 2020. S&P is down 12, a drop there of 0.4%. The Dow lower by 186 points, down 0.7%. NASDAQ 100 index did cross 10,000 for the first time ever. 10-year up 14.30 seconds, yield 0.82%. Gold is up 0.9%, advancing $15 the ounce at 17.14, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.5%, 38.76 a barrel. Tough day for a lot of the travel and entertainment names. Among the hotels, Hilton Worldwide Holdings down 3.7%, Marriott International down 4.65%, and among the cruise line stocks, Carnival Corporation down 6.6%, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings down 9.7%, Royal Caribbean lower now by 6.7%. 3:33 on Wall Street. Time now for the Small Business Report, and now here's John Tucker.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm John Tucker. The pandemic-related shutdowns have forced small business owners to rethink how they sell. Some have turned to nationwide shipping. Not unusual, unless your small business is selling food. In Westchester County, New York, Chris Warrington's Walter's Hot Dogs is satisfying transplanted New Yorkers hungry for a taste of home.
Yesterday I was packing one. It said, "Happy anniversary. I know we're not together, but know that I'll always love you."
She uses a platform called Goldbelly. The founder there, Joe Ariel, calls it food e-commerce.
And for many of our shops, they are, in fact, doing so well that they're sold out for weeks at a time.
Melanie Frost is using the platform and any other service she can think of at her New York City Essa-Bagel.
And we just started signing up with all the online delivery services. We just added many more of them.
But a word of caution, those services aren't cheap. They do cut into margins. And that's the Bloomberg Small Business Report.
And we thank you very much, John Tucker. Again, 26 minutes to go. S&P down 15, down 0.5%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio. Well, Jimmy on a Tuesday? Jimi Hendrix, Dave Wilson, what's he talking about?
Manic depression.
Yikes.
You could argue that's what the stock market has been through the last few months. You know, this is the manic phase. You go back to February, March, you could argue that was the depressive phase. And I bring that up because, you know, there's this option-based indicator that I spotted on Twitter, courtesy of Dana Lyons of the Lions Share newsletter, that really kind of shows how extreme the move in sentiment about U.S. stocks has been over the course of the past few months. And what it does is track company-specific option contracts traded on Cboe Global Markets. So what we're talking about here is an equity put-call ratio. So in other words, contracts that basically lock at a price you can sell, which is the sort of thing you can do when, you know, you figure that stocks are going to fall out of bed, and then the call options that, you know, rise in value as share prices do. So what he does is take a 5-day average of this CBOE equity put call ratio, And when you run the numbers, you find out that, back in March, when stocks were near their lows, the average was the highest going all the way back to 2002. So, near the end of a bear market in U.S. stocks. So, fast forward to where we were at the end of last week, you had the highest reading since 2010. And in fact, this 5-day average has come down to the point you're now looking at the lowest levels since 2000. So, in the space of less than 3 months, we've gone from extreme fear, as reflected in this indicator, to extreme confidence. Mm-hmm. And there's the manic depressive element right there. If you want to see it for yourselves, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
That could be the title of your next book, From Extreme Fear to Extreme Confidence.
Okay.
Or it could be even your garage band, Extreme Fear. Extreme confidence doesn't work, but extreme fear is kind of like, hey, let's welcome extreme fear. Extreme fear. Totally.
There was a fairly well-known punk band back in the day called Fear. I hesitate to steal their thunder.
Yeah, but Extreme Fear.
Those guys are mean.
That's the band you really want to go see.
Extreme Fear?
Totally.
Extreme Fear with frontman Dave Wilson?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I see the T-shirts. I see the mugs. I see it all.
All right, Dave Wilson. We will catch up with you just after the close of trading for your stock of the day. And meanwhile, as Dave was very well outlining, it is such a strange market to look at. Just taking a look at where we are.
It's wait a minute
Tuesday. The Dow is off 0.8%. The S&P off 0.5%. NASDAQ is essentially a flip of that, up about 0.5%. What are we ticking?
Counting down to the Fed decision tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
You're just going to wait. You want to see, is Yelena right? Is Jay Powell going to come out and be like, hey, folks, I know that jobs report came out. It's one report. It's backward looking. We still got a lot of ways to do. And they're not going to rock anything that's going on, right? Because they want a recovery. Yeah. Whatever momentum we've got, they want to make sure it keeps going.
They want to hold on to.
They're going to, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder what Jay Powell is going to say, because he's been a little bit more forthright of late. Certainly in that testimony on the Hill, I feel like he was fairly forthright about what he thought the fiscal side should do, meaning the Congress should do in this next step. We know there's some reticence, it feels like, on the part of Republicans in the administration to do anything right away. Maybe wait till after July 4th is what we continue to hear. I also wonder how many questions he's going to get about the broader economy in light of the protests, too, and some of the economic evidence that's come out that is really underlying all of this. I wonder if anybody's going to press him on that.
Yeah, exactly. And you do wonder, right? Yeah, I think they will be pressed. How could they not? Right?
I don't know.
Really?
He should be pressed. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just wondering how much of the oxygen is going to be taken up by that. We'll see.
I know.
You'll hear it live on Bloomberg Radio. That's all I know.
Okay, there we go. There's our promo for tomorrow. All right, let's get back to world and national news headlines. Back on over to Nancy Lyons. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Carol. Leaders attending today's funeral of George Floyd are recommending major changes in police practices. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner says his city will lead the way.
In this city, we will ban chokeholds and strangleholds. In this city, we will require de-escalation. In this city, you have to give a warning before you shoot.
Democrats in Congress are proposing a far-reaching overhaul of police procedures and accountability, but passage in the Republican-led Senate is far from certain. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he's putting the Republican response in the hands of the only African-American member of the Republican Senate, Tim Scott.
The best way for the Senate Republicans to go forward on this is to listen to one of our own who's had these experiences. He's had them since he's been in the United States Senate. And with his guidance and leadership, we're going to come together with a proposal that we think makes the most sense for the federal government.
McConnell says we're still wrestling with America's original sin. The Palestinians are making a counteroffer to President Trump's Mideast peace plan. They're proposing a demilitarized Palestinian state in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem with one-to-one land exchanges with Israel. The 4.5-page plan was submitted in recent days to the quartet of Mideast mediators, the U.S., the UN, the European Union, and Russia. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President and Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
COVID-19.
Can my employer change my contract?
Am I entitled to statutory sick pay?
What is holiday pay?
When can I take annual leave?
Is my employer allowed to change the hours I work?
How do I raise an issue with my employer?
Right now, it's important to know your rights in the workplace. At ACAS, we're here to help with free impartial advice. Visit us today at acas.org.uk/rights at work.
Buckle up, race fans.
NASCAR is back in the driver's seat.
And you can cut straight to the action here.
With the Performance Racing Network on TuneIn, you can hear PRN's live coverage of some of this year's top events.
As NASCAR's top drivers, Kevin Harvick,
Clint Boyer, and more get back on the track.
Search Performance Racing Network to listen and see upcoming races.
Looking for your daily fix of NFL news and analysis?
In that. So we had to blow it up at the Super Bowl predictions instead.
Look no further than the Pick Six podcast, where CBS sports writer Will Brinson gets you up to speed with what's trending in the NFL that day, so that you're always in the know.
Yeah, it's pretty revealing of Brinson's methodology for predictions. When he gets mad at people for predicting good teams are going to win the Super Bowl or good players are going to win major awards, that's how you wind up.
Search Pick Six on TuneIn to listen.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
Yeah, but it's unique times. I think there's unique circumstances, and we're trying
to standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
With millions of podcasts dropping new episodes all the time, how do you keep up with all your favorites? TuneIn makes it easy. Simply head to the home screen and find your new episode section to see the latest additions.
As the science and medical world continues to learn more about COVID-19, we're all learning how to best live with it. Because the news is always changing, TuneIn helps you make sure you're getting the latest information on the pandemic with live streams of CNN, MSNBC, BBC, and more. Plus, evidence-driven podcasts like Coronavirus, Fact versus Fiction, and Podcast 19. For the latest stories and reports, search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
This is Mike Golick from ESPN's Golick and Wingo. Every morning, Trey Wingo, my son, and I sit down to discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golick and Wingo to start listening today.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games.
Bergeron, he scores!
With Game Replay on TuneIn, you can listen to every power play, slap shot, and goal of the 2019-2020 season so far.
Suter to Cunnin to Fiala, he scores!
And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Technology shares are rallying. NASDAQ higher, trading at a record. NASDAQ 100 index did climb above 10,000. The Dow, the S&P lower, retreating from yesterday's rally. Stocks pairing losses as a rally in technology giants offsets concerns over valuation and economic prospects. Here's where we stand. S&P 500 index down 20 now, a drop of 0.7%. The Dow is down 254, down 0.9%. NASDAQ up 43, that is a gain of 0.4%. 10-years up 15.30 seconds, yield 0.82%. Gold up 1%, 17.14 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.4%, 38.71 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on. Excuse me, I want to drive. Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
And it's time for the Drive to the Close. Joining us once again, David Dietz, President and Chief Investment Strategist at Point View Wealth Management. Joining us on the phone from lovely Summit, New Jersey. David, how are you? How are you coping with this market that really can't give us a straight answer, it feels like?
Well, certainly, people are nervous at this point. We've seen a tremendous jump of close to 50% off the apparent bottom, March 23rd. But, of course, the headlines are still horrendous. We've just been told by the NBER that we are in a recession that perhaps started in February. The states are starting to open up quite slowly, but hotspots are increasing. Certainly, double-digit percentages of people are out of work, so people are trying to balance this tremendous rebound by the stock market with some of the most horrendous economic headlines we've heard in a generation.
But so what do you choose to focus on, David? Are you really, the equity market tends to look forward, and I do wonder, do you think that's right? And do you think the trade justifies what we might be getting, or is it too uncertain? We certainly talked to our Bloomberg economics team, and, the expectations are not necessarily that high for what we might ultimately get, but there's also a wide gap in terms of, what might happen next.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the most important thing for people to realize is a medical crisis. And that makes it particularly difficult for economists and portfolio managers to get their arms around, because that's the province of research scientists and so forth. But by all accounts, the silver bullet, which is the vaccine, is getting closer and closer. There's apparently about 100 firms worldwide working on it. It's becoming like the space race. The Chinese.
We actually talked to one earlier today. You're right, and they're we were trying to get to the science behind it, because they're not all the same.
Yeah, so there's national pride, there's big bucks. You've got 3 initiatives by Merck, Moderna's offering a partnership between AstraZeneca and Oxford University, which just received $1 billion in U.S. funding. So I think that's right around the corner. That's the silver bullet. But of course, the therapeutic, if we can take death off the table, Gilead's working on a great offering there. And each day we're finding testing is becoming more plentiful, more available, cheaper. So that's one area. The other area is we're seeing just a sea change in consumer attitudes. Initially, of course, people were scared to death, as they should have been, from the COVID risk. They stayed in their home. Now we're seeing just as much focus on people's economic health and their mental health as opposed to the COVID risk, and they want to get out. They want to get back to work. They want to recreate. The states, all 50 of them, are now letting them to do that, and we've seen great metrics suggesting that people are clamoring to Vegas.
Right.
Even air traffic is starting to get better. So those are some fundamentals that are moving in the right direction.
So what are you buying?
So what are we buying? So, I mean, we basically like if you are very nervous about the outlook, you stick with that stay-at-home and the secular tech growers. But on the other hand, if you're more constructive and see the benefits of historic policymaker stimulus, both from the Federal Reserve and from Congress, then I think you look for some of the blue-chip cyclicals. The one we like best, quite frankly, is Boeing. And why? First of all, you've got that valuation advantage. It was over 400. Right now, it's just over 200. So, the question is not whether any airline will make it, is whether people over the next 5 to 10 years will want to take to the skies again. And we think the answer is yes. And you basically got a duopoly. You've got Airbus over in Europe. You've got Boeing. Because of the compliance issues, because of the capital required, no one else is going to compete with them. And we just saw a crash over in Pakistan, unfortunately, with an Airbus plane. So no one wants to just rely on them. And so we think that Boeing ultimately has the upper hand and will benefit. Now, it's a cyclical business, but they have a backlog of close to 5,000 plus.
David Dietz, one of the things I love about you is you love these down and outs every now and again. And I remember for almost a year or so we were talking Wells Fargo. You were behind them all the way. I do want to talk to you about Coca-Cola. That's one that I grew up with down in Atlanta, and I wonder how you feel about it now.
So, it's the chicken way to play a rebound. Here's why. Because it is a consumer staple. So no matter how bad things get, people will turn to their inexpensive luxury, which is a nice Coke. Unfortunately, they make a little bit more money when you buy it at a bar or a restaurant than when you consume it at home. And that's taken their stock down from 60 into the upper 40s, which, by the way, is only 6 points above where it was 22 years ago.
Wow.
So we think and remember, Coke is 3 times the size of its nearest competitor in terms of non-alcoholic beverages. Most of this business is overseas, so it's got a distribution system, a high margin one, because it basically they just provide the concentrate and let others do the bottling and getting it to your door business. And so you have a wide moat. You've got a 3.2% dividend. So if things get better, we see it drifting up from that 49 to 60. That's a nice 20% gain plus your dividend. But if things continue to stay tough because of its size, because of that dividend, because of its basically non-cyclicality, we think the downside risk is low. So I think it's a chicken way to take advantage of a general reopening of the economy. And again, 3.2% dividend versus less 1% of the 10-year Treasury. Yeah. Where are you going to be after a couple years?
Hey, one last name, PNC Financial is another name that you like, and that's got a 3.6% dividend yield. Stock's down about 21% this year. Why PNC specifically? They're based obviously out in Pittsburgh.
because of the big news. They sold their stake in BlackRock. So 1/3 approximately of their market value is now in cash. That means that dividend at 3.7% is safe. That gives them the option to buy back stock. It's now about 125. It was 160 at the start of the year. So this could be an opportune time to do that. Or they're in the catbird seat to make an acquisition. As we all know, the financial stocks are under pressure. So they could go to the Sun Belt. They could continue in the Midwest, or they could get some sort of a fintech play. They've got a lot of options. You don't have to worry about financial stress with PNC because of that successful and timely sale of BlackRock.
Well, the company's CEO was making some remarks at a Morgan Stanley conference actually today and said they're going to be patient to deploy capital from that sale of BlackRock. And they said they'd consider stock buybacks, quote, at the margins, and that will ideally expand geography, focus on C&I and real estate. So you're right.
Yeah.
They've got some breathing room. They've got a lot of breathing room.
And
right
expand
now.
geography sounds a lot like they're going to buy another bank. To me, I mean, that's what I would say. It's like, maybe if we want to be in the South, it's like we're not going to open a bunch of PNC branches, and there are some banks for sale down there. Good stuff. David Dietz, thank you so much. Always good to catch up with you from Summit. President, Chief Investment Strategist for Point View Wealth Management. The close is just ahead. We're going to take a look at some of the movers and shakers, catch up with Dave Wilson. Later on, we're going to talk about a cool new book. Lots of fun stuff ahead. This is Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Dave.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care about each other, about our planet, about creating a better world for everyone, and becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
Can my employer change my contract?
Am I entitled to statutory sick pay?
What is holiday pay?
When can I take annual leave?
Is my employer allowed to change the hours I work?
How do I raise an issue with my employer?
Right now, it's important to know your rights in the workplace. At ACAS, we're here to help with free impartial advice. Visit us today at acas.org.uk/rights at work.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games. With Game Replay on TuneIn, you can hear every matchup of the 2019-2020 season so far. And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
Yeah, but it's unique times. I think there's unique circumstances, and we're trying
to standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
Who says you can't have a laugh while getting serious about America's pastime? On the daily podcast Locked On MLB, comedian and baseball fanatic Paul Francis Sullivan talks about each team, each pennant race, and everything else in the game, from rule changes and controversies to baseball cards and stadium food.
For those of you who are not familiar with me or the old show, I love to obsess over baseball. I'm talking baseball over the Super Bowl. We had a TV showing the division series during my wedding.
Search Locked On MLB on TuneIn to listen today.
Are you fully informed on the NBA? On the NBA Hangtime podcast, veteran sports writers Sekou Smith and John Schumann analyze the latest NBA news, storylines, and discussions with guests from around the basketball universe.
Isaiah Thomas joined us here on the Hangtime podcast. Isaiah, good morning.
Everybody's doing well. As you know, my daughter tested positive.
Search NBA Hangtime on TuneIn to listen.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Palata. Mixed Tuesday, folks from Valero, ringing the closing bell as we wrap up trading. And we're brought to you by Witham, a forward-thinking advisory and accounting firm helping clients, quote, be in a position of strength in the new reality of business. Learn about their innovative solutions by visiting Witham.com. Again, mixed finish to the day. Stocks paired losses as a rally in technology giants offset concern over valuations and economic prospects. Treasuries climb. We had the S&P 500 index falling 25 points, down 0.8%. The Dow dropped 300 points, down 1.1%. NASDAQ higher by 29 points, up 0.3%. In the year-to-date column on the Bloomberg, NASDAQ now up by 10.9%. That is a record for the NASDAQ Composite Index. 10-year up 15.30 seconds with a yield of 0.82%. Gold up 0.9%, 17.14 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.5%, 38.77 a barrel. NASDAQ 100 index ending the day at 99.67. Did trade briefly above 10,000, first time ever. David Dietz is chief investment strategist at Point View Wealth Management. Moments ago, right here on Bloomberg Business Week, he told us there has been a definite shift in sentiment.
We're seeing just a sea change in consumer attitudes. Initially, of course, people were scared to death, as they should have been, from the COVID risk. They stayed in their home. Now we're seeing just as much focus on people's economic health and their mental health as opposed to the COVID risk. And they want to get out. They want to get back to work. They want to recreate.
Tough day for a couple of well-known retailers. Signet Jewelers, which owns the Zales chain, along with Kay, will be making lockdown-related store closures permanent at more than 150 locations in North America, as well as 80 in the United Kingdom. Its shares today plunging by 16%. Also, even though it's opening more stores, Macy's down 7.1%. Recapping S&P down 0.8%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Wild thing, think you move me. I got a few moves I know you'll like. Shake it through, shake it through, yeah.
Oh, come on, shake him, not stir.
Just move on toward your destination.
I can make things move without touching them.
Shaking all over.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the trade today. Of course, Charlie breaking down those major equity averages. Just keep in mind, 24 hours from now, we will be done through that Fed meeting. And I am very curious, Jason, to see what Jay Powell and his team have to say about that jobs report last Friday and just kind of about the economic outlook. In the meantime, kind of tick-tock a little bit. Yeah. A little bit lower on the Dow and the S&P, a little bit higher on the NASDAQ today. If I look at the S&P 500, though, overwhelmingly a bearish tone, kind of taking a pause here. 442 names in the index losing some ground today, 62 higher and 1 unchanged.
Yeah, it's interesting, and trying to get a sense on the S&P at least of what was moving around and why. Yeah. Tech certainly did a little bit. AMD was actually your number one gainer. There wasn't anything super clear. There's some speculation about some new products, but that is a name that we've talked about quite a bit. We've talked about their CEO. I believe she was on the Bloomberg 50 last year. It's a stock that's up about 23% for the year, and that is notable in a year where the S&P is essentially flat. At this point, setting aside the fact that it's remarkable that the S&P is flat, to see a stock gain 23% is notable.
Yeah, and I'm looking here for Netflix because it's
I was looking at that too.
Right, one of your biggest gainers here. Is it number 2 or number 3 here in the S&P 500? And I don't necessarily see anything here.
One of the things that I wonder about with Netflix is if, as the dust settles, and this is a question for like a Felix Gillette or somebody like that, as the dust settles, are people with all the new streaming things coming out with Disney Plus? And I have to say, we were just actually messaging about the small subset of movies that my 2-year-old will actually watch, and they're all Disney plus Little Sesame Street. Yeah. But I have to say, Disney Plus, there's not a ton on there. I mean, HBO Max, there's a ton, and HBO Max is not done very well. Netflix has a lot of resilience here. I mean, Netflix has a very good installed base. Their algorithms are really good. I feel like they're going to get toward the end of this year, and I'm saying this more as a consumer as anything, that they're going to get to the end of this year and be like, all right, well, everybody's out now. You can compare and contrast, and Netflix still looks pretty good as a product.
It's up 34% this year. Yeah, I think, I just think when we sit down and it's just amazing how many times we sit down and we're like, there's nothing to watch. And how many streaming services are coming in. But, what are our go-to services in terms of where we look at things? And Netflix is always there, right? You're always checking it out to see what's there. But I do think, as more original content comes, did you watch Defending Jacob on, I don't know if you've got Apple.
Yeah, we don't have Apple.
That was really well done content. Yeah, but I think it will ultimately come down to, do you have a hook to get people in, that there's kind of a must-see programming. But
I'm going to subscribe to Apple when the Shrink Next Door comes out.
I know. Is that where they're doing it? Is it Apple? Yeah. And
Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd.
That's going to be brilliant. I got to tell you. That's going to be, incredible.
I can't wait.
For so many different reasons.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, that's Joe Nocera's hit podcast. So it's the number one podcast in 2019, and it is now going to be a movie starring Will Ferrell.
Don't you think about your world? It's funny. I put out the headline of New Jersey governor basically saying New Jersey's open.
Yeah.
How much are we going to just be I just want to get out?
Yeah.
I will say in this area, we're still going to be very cautious. At least that's how I feel, until I have a sense of comfort that as I go out in the world, that we're going to be okay.
Well, it's interesting. Here in the burbs, it's phase 2, which is notable, which means in our little town, outdoor dining as of today.
Wow.
We're going to outdoor dine today.
Are you?
I'll have a report tomorrow.
Oh, I want to
Going to go over to JP Doyle's, our favorite little pub. They've got a little outdoor garden. I'm going to take the boys. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. First time someone will have served me food since February. Is that crazy?
That's really kind of funny.
And I don't have to clean up.
Oh, my God. Well, I want to know how it goes.
More to the point, I don't have to rewash the dishes after the boys do them.
Yeah, I know. I was instructing my daughter how to clean a frying pan and make sure she gets the grease. And she just looked at me. She's like, "Why don't you just do it?"
Yeah, exactly.
That went over well.
It's a good trick. All right, let's take a look at volatility. The VIX up a touch, about 5.6%, closing at 27.26. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson.
Open up the door. It's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Dave Wilson back with us with your stock. What you got?
HD Supply Holdings, Jason. It's an industrial distributor that serves about 500,000 customers in the U.S. and Canada. The HP comes from former owner Home Depot, which sold the business in 2007 to Bain Capital, Carlyle Group, and Clayton, DeVilliers and Rice. HD Supply went public in 2013. The ticker is HDS. The company's shares more than doubled from their initial price through last May when they set a record. This year, the shares peaked in February and fell as much as 50% in the next 6 weeks. While HD Supply has rebounded since then, the recovery faced a hurdle in today's release of fiscal first quarter results. The company's shares had fallen for 7 straight quarters in the wake of quarterly reports. Today, though, was another story. HD Supply's earnings and sales held up better than analysts surveyed by Bloomberg were expecting. The results beat the average estimates by the most in any quarter since the company went public. And in response, HD Supply climbed to a 3-month high. The shares closed with a gain of 6.7%.
Yeah, I remember it was a massive private equity deal.
Was it?
Today. Yeah, at the height. One of the last, they called them club deals, where you had a bunch of private equity firms coming together.
Hence
Dave
the club.
named them. Thus the club. Yeah, Carlyle and CD&R. It was a pretty successful deal, all told. So it's been an interesting one to watch coming out of the Home Depot.
And bucking the trend today in what was really an overall down market. Dave, do you do dishes?
I put them in the dishwasher, and occasionally I run it.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Just
checks out. All right. Dave Wilson, thank you so much. We'll be back with you tomorrow for your market insights, your chart, and your stock. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Let's head out to San Francisco. Ed Baxter is there. He's got world and national headlines. Hello, Ed.
Hi, Jason, and hi, Carol. Well, as you guys said, New Jersey is opening more doors.
Today, the stay-at-home order, which has been in place since March 21st, is being lifted.
Yeah, Governor Phil Murphy also raising the limit of indoor gatherings to 25% of capacity or 50 people, whichever is lower. New York, good day on measuring cases.
Only 1% of those tested positive for COVID-19.
That is an amazing statement.
Meanwhile, Mayor Bill de Blasio says the city council is working on a four-prong approach to help safe policing. And on reopenings, New York's Westchester and Rockland counties enter the second phase of reopening today. And on the day that George Floyd is laid to rest in Houston, the president has alleged without substantiation that the 75-year-old Buffalo man shoved by police was a provocateur who exaggerated his fall. This is not sitting well with Governor Andrew Cuomo.
You saw his head hit the pavement. You see blood on the pavement. Maybe he fell harder than he was pushed. How reckless, how irresponsible, how mean, how crude.
Cuomo says that in a time of pain, the president is throwing gasoline on those flames. Voting today, Georgia hitting some potholes, long lines, broken voting machines. The mayor of Atlanta urging voters to hang in there in those long lines. This as Mr. Trump fights mail-in balloting. And Hong Kong's chief executive is strengthening ties with Beijing, even as provocateurs took to the streets on the one-year anniversary of the beginnings of the extradition protests. Global News 24 hours a day in San Francisco. I'm Ed Baxter, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
Working from home, take a little more time for breakfast. Tom Keene.
How will this pandemic change your NASDAQ?
Jonathan Farrow.
When you look at that sector, some of these companies won't exist, will they?
And Lisa Abramowitz.
They've only continued to increase the delinquencies and defaults.
Crunch data topped with fresh world news. Bloomberg Surveillance. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. And now, watch us on Bloomberg Television.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. You out-salesmaned the salesman. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll have the info you need to get more for your future. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to speeding past financial challenges, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg Terminal is your power up, connecting you to real-time financial data, market-moving news, powerful analytics, and an influential network of financial decision makers around the world. Share ideas, negotiate trades, and gain the insight you need to make more informed decisions. See how the Terminal can take your workflow to the next level at Bloomberg.com/professional.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment. Feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
This is a message from the government about the emergency measures to support the economy during the period of disruption caused by the coronavirus. To help you, your business, and your workers affected, you can apply for cash grants, business rate holidays, statutory sick pay relief packages, as well as the coronavirus job retention and self-employment income support schemes. For information, go to gov.uk/business-support now.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
Hi, I'm Dan from NatWest Manchester branch. We know life's hard right now, but if coronavirus has affected your finances, we're doing our best to make things easier. If you're a personal customer, you can request a 3-month payment break if you're struggling with your mortgage, loan or credit card. Or if you need help with an existing arranged overdraft, you could get £500 interest-free for 3 months. Remember, every one of us is here to support you. There are lots of ways we could help. Search NatWest Coronavirus.
Eligibility and conditions apply to payment breaks. Overdraft up to your agreed limit if lower than £500.
Picture this. Small businesses on eBay are working to
get things moving.
Sending spices to novice cooks.
Hairbands to kids.
Desks for home offices.
Delivering the goods.
Shipping footballs. Fruit trees.
And dishwashers.
Thousands of small businesses on eBay are helping to keep the nation going. They are individually brilliant, stronger as one. Buy, sell, eBay.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Where do sports, culture, and basketball nostalgia collide? On their podcast, Knuckleheads, NBA veterans Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles sit down with athletes, musicians, and entertainers to get brutally honest, totally unguarded conversations about everything, from current events to untold stories from the golden era of sports.
O'Neal. You know that, right? I tried to tip dunk all the free throw line one time.
Search Knuckleheads on TuneIn to listen.
Want to relive the glory of college football?
Balls over a man, into the end zone.
Come explore TuneIn's classic game replay collection to hear ESPN's complete coverage of the 2019 New Year's 6 bowl games. Don't miss your chance to re-experience the Rose Bowl, the 2020 National Championship, featuring Clemson and LSU.
There's going to be 2 champions on the field tomorrow night. There's going to be 1 team hold up the trophy.
Search classic game replays to listen for free.
And breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. A 300-point drop today for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, down 1.1%. S&P retreating from yesterday's advance, down 25 points, down 0.8%. But NASDAQ climbing to a record, up 29 points higher today by just about 0.3%. Stocks declined on concern the blistering rally in risk assets has overshot economic prospects. The 10-year yield, 0.82%. Gold up 1%, surging $17 the ounce to $17.15. Crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, up 1.5%, $38.75 a barrel. Brent, $40.98 up today by 0.4%. Recapping, S&P lower, down 25, a drop of 0.8%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Let's talk a little Bloomberg Green. It's a big day for Bloomberg Green, and this segment is brought to you by PGIM. Outlast today's uncertainty with the long-term perspective of PGIM, the investment management business of Prudential. Find out more at pgim.com.
It is. It's the first quarterly issue of our climate magazine. It's called Bloomberg Green. It's published. It's all part of a news vertical here at Bloomberg under the same name. And it's really fascinating. And in this first issue of the magazine, Jason, there's a story that is among our most read on the Bloomberg terminal today. It's about the Walt Disney Company and the millions of dollars it has plowed into the jungle highlands of northern Peru. Pulitzer Prize winning reporter and who wrote this fascinating and revealing story, Zach Miter, Projects and Investigations reporter here at Bloomberg News. He joins us on the phone from New Jersey. This is quite a story. Zach, tell us a little bit about what Disney is up to.
Sure. So Disney is, like a lot of big companies, trying to show that they're doing something about climate change. And what Disney has done in particular is they've basically claimed that they've been very successful in reducing their emissions over the last more than a decade. And the key to that is essentially not actually reducing actual emissions, those are still going up, but by essentially sending money into this jungle in Peru that allows them to claim that they're preventing deforestation that offsets the pollution that they're that they're emitting into the air.
How'd you find out about that? I mean, this is a really revealing story in many ways. And I wonder, was this one of these things that was sort of hiding in plain sight, or how did this come to your attention, Zach?
Oh, yeah, there's no secret about it. One thing that's interesting about this is one of the projects, this Disney project in Peru, is one that has been kind of pointed to over the years as one of the big successes of forest, conservation to offset emissions. And it was made more interesting once I got into it by realizing that, for Disney, this was like a really kind of straightforward trade, because they were building all these new cruise ships. Their cruise ship business is very successful. They're building 3 more now. But when they were building their 3rd and 4th ship, they realized that their emissions were going to be skyrocketing, and they had just set all these goals to try to have emissions go down. There's not really much you can do to clean up a cruise ship. You can't get a solar-powered cruise ship or a wind-powered cruise ship, and so there's no real other options. And so that's what led them to the jungles of Peru.
I got to say, I toured one of those ships. I mean, they're incredible, but, I guess what's interesting about this story, Zach, is so they haven't done anything as a company to reduce their impact necessarily. Certainly these new cruise ships, right? The impact that they're having on the environment. Well, yet they are offsetting it. Or go ahead, yeah.
Right. Well, they're doing what they can. I mean, a lot of their power and their theme parks is now coming from renewable sources. The problem is the cruise ship business is a great business. They didn't want to. They wanted to continue to build more and more ships. And with ships, there's not much you can do to clean them up. I mean, it's basically a fossil fuel business. There's no alternative at the moment. And so they they had all the latest energy efficient engines and lights and stuff, but it's still, it takes a lot of fossil fuel to get from Florida to the Bahamas and back.
Well, and the whole business of offsets, I feel like, has become an industry in and of itself, Zach. Help us understand essentially the controversy around this, because what you guys, really do so well in this story is you really help us understand kind of the human cost of this, right?
Yeah. So the idea behind the offset is it's a great idea, which is basically there's companies and people that want to reduce their emissions, but want to still continue to be able to fly and go on cruises and things like that. And then at the same time, there are forests around the world that need protection. They're being chopped down. And if you could somehow find a way to just kind of transfer the value from the people who want to pay to reduce emissions to the place where the forests are being cut down, you could sort of have a deal where everybody wins. That's the theory behind it.
Right.
Part of what this story was about is how, in practice there's complications. You're not just kind of, the promotional videos are all about, everyone's happy and holding hands and there's this beautiful pristine jungle, but actually this jungle, like thousands of people already live there illegally. And there was kind of this long-standing conflict between the government and the people who live there. And Disney and its conservation partner kind of just walked into the middle of this situation and, ended up having a huge effect on the outcome in ways that, really were not, it was not something that was part of the original goal, right? Basically, the government agency that is the steward of this land had no money, and all of a sudden, because of Disney, they have all this money, so they can start patrolling and policing this jungle.
I feel like, man, there's just so many different ways you can go. Bottom line, it doesn't prevent polluters from, continuing to burn more fossil fuel, which is, I feel like, what what folks are, that's the goal. There's so much in this story, and I know we just scratched the surface, but it is an incredible read, and we suggest that everybody check it out. You can read more stories on climate, news, science, and the environment at Bloomberg.com/green, or look for Bloomberg Green on newsstands today. The amazing Zach Miter, projects and investigations reporter at Bloomberg News, on the phone from New Jersey.
Yeah, and also just read, go and search everything Zach Miter does. Seriously. I mean, he's one of the best reporters. The Pulitzer Committee noted that a few years ago, and he's continued to do great work. I think about some of the predatory lending stuff he's covered as well. So check that out. Our thanks, as always, to Zach Miter. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wall Street took a breather from its blistering rally, ending mostly lower. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 300. The S&P 500 lost 25. The Nasdaq climbed 29 to another all-time high. We got another look at just how bad the job market was at the peak of the COVID-19 lockdowns. The government said job openings fell in April to a 6-year low to just over 5 million. That was nearly 1 million fewer than in March. The COVID-19 pandemic is taking a bite out of some 401k retirement plans. A Willis Towers Watson survey finds that as of late April, 12% of companies surveyed had suspended matching contributions. Another 23% said they might do so later. Tired of your old Mac? Trade it in. Sources say Apple plans to launch a Mac trade-in program at its North American retail stores next week. Until now, Apple has only offered Mac trade-ins via its website. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance. Say hi, guys. When I adopted them, I discovered that they both have incredible personalities. Chance's sole purpose in life is to love and to be loved. Frankie is a little bit of a scoundrel and always entertaining. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
With COVID-19, so much is unknown.
Is this the worst you've seen?
But we are committed to getting you every piece of information we can as soon as we can.
Tell us about this first big win you have. What is it, 24 million N95 masks?
Fewer unknowns.
Who's winning here? Where is the pressure right now?
That's our goal.
What worries you the most? The time it's going to take for a vaccine?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Bloomberg and Eaton.
You know that feeling when you get more than you expected? Like discovering that the box of chocolates has a whole other layer underneath? Or scoring extra poppadoms with your takeaway? Or joining Tesco Mobile and finding out you get the latest phones and 99% UK network coverage? Yeah, that moment. Feels good, right? Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
99% 4G population coverage indoors and outdoors across UK.
Picture this. Small businesses on eBay are working to
Get things moving.
Sending spices to novice cooks.
Hairbands to kids.
Desks for home offices.
Delivering the goods.
Shipping footballs,
Fruit trees.
And dishwashers.
Thousands of small businesses on eBay are helping to keep the nation going. They are individually brilliant, stronger as one. Buy, sell, eBay.
Can my employer change my contract?
Am I entitled to statutory sick pay?
What is holiday pay?
When can I take annual leave?
Is my employer allowed to change the hours I work?
How do I raise an issue with my employer?
Right now, it's important to know your rights in the workplace. At ACAS, we're here to help with free impartial advice. Visit us today at acas.org.uk/rights at work.
As the science and medical world continues to learn more about COVID-19, we're all learning how to best live with it. Because the news is always changing, TuneIn helps you make sure you're getting the latest information on the pandemic with live streams of CNN, MSNBC, BBC, and more. Plus, evidence-driven podcasts like Coronavirus, Fact versus Fiction, and Podcast 19 for the latest stories and reports. Search Coronavirus News on TuneIn.
It's TuneIn Sports on this day. On this day in 2013, Rafael Nadal wins another French Open title, making him the first man to win the same Grand Slam title 8 times. To listen to conversations breaking down the moments just like this, search sports to be part of the discussion on TuneIn.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games. With Game Replay on TuneIn, you can hear every matchup of the 2019-2020 season so far. And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening.
This is Mike Golick Jr. from ESPN's Golick and Wingo. Every morning, Wingo, Dad, and I sit down and discuss all the news, drama, and highlights spinning the sports world that day. And with TuneIn, you can hear us whenever and wherever you go. Just search Golick and Wingo to start listening today.
Are you fully informed on the NBA? On the NBA Hangtime podcast, veteran sports writers Sekou Smith and John Schumann analyze the latest NBA news, storylines, and discussions with guests from around the basketball universe.
Isaiah Thomas joined us here on the Hangtime podcast. Isaiah, good morning.
Everybody's doing well. As you know, my daughter tested positive.
Search NBA Hangtime on TuneIn to listen.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 1061. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, this is one of my favorite stories, I have to say, just that we followed for years and years and years, that of American Dream.
Right, you can have a teenager in this time, right?
Yeah, and the time it takes to birth a mall in New Jersey. Yeah,
exactly.
For reals. It used to be called Xanadu. Now it's American Dream.
And now it's just like, oh my God, trying to figure out what life is like post-COVID-19.
And now it's kind of a nightmare. In any case, we're going to catch up with John Gittleson in just a second. Looking forward to that. But first, Charlie Pellet's got an update on all those headlines. Hey, Charlie.
Well, hello there, Jason Kelly. Happy Tuesday. Stocks move lower today on concern the blistering rally in risk assets overshot economic prospects. The S&P 500 index in a mixed session halted a surge that drove the gauge higher for 2020, led by energy and industrial companies. Small cap shares underperformed. Here's where we ended today's session. S&P 500 index fell 25 points, down 0.8%. Once again, negative on the year, down 0.7%. Nasdaq, though, up another 29 points, up 0.3%, bringing its year-to-date gain to 10.9%. The Dow fell 300 points, down 1.1% for the year, down now by 4.4%. 10-year up 16.30 seconds, 10-year yield 0.82%, gold up 1%, 17.15 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude rallied 1.1%, 38.62 a barrel on WTI, up today by 43 cents a barrel. Federal Reserve has begun its two-day meeting. We'll be getting the announcement tomorrow, 2 o'clock Wall Street time. Subhadra Rajap is head of U.S. rate strategy at Societe Generale.
You know, they are focused on the fiscal side of the equation. So for the most part, I think that, broadly speaking, the Fed is going to be, supportive and keep yields somewhat anchored under these circumstances.
Iraq is asking some Asian refiners to consider foregoing prompt shipments of its Basra crude, a potential signal the country is trying to meet the output cut pledges it made to OPEC at the weekend. Among some of the energy names today, we saw shares of ExxonMobil declining by 2.2%, BP lower by 3.7%, EOG Resources down 4.3%, and shares of Pioneer Natural Resources lower today by 7.1%. Big move today for the enterprise software firm Cloudera, which counts activist investor Carl Icahn as its largest shareholder. Sources say it's exploring a potential sale after receiving takeover interest. Shares of Cloudera surging today on a down day for the S&P. Cloudera, among the tech names, advancing by 18.6%. Recapping, S&P down 25, down 0.8%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about American Dream, the family behind it. We're talking about the mega mall over in New Jersey. It's been quite a saga, and helping us understand where we are and who's behind it and who is affected by it. none other than John Gittleson, investing reporter for Bloomberg, joining us on the phone from Cali. How are you, John?
I'm all right. It's sunny in L.A.
Go figure. Well, it's nice to hear your voice. So sunny here as well on the East Coast, and even sun at least literally shining on American Dream, I think, over there in New Jersey. But it has been a bit of a rough go. Tell us about your story, because it's revealing.
Yeah, well, the family behind the American Dream, they were like pioneers in the mega mall. The largest mall in the world was their first big project, the West Edmonton Mall in Canada. Mm-hmm. Then it was followed up 10 years later in the early 90s by the Mall of America in Minneapolis. And they, struggled to get big projects off the ground, but they really put their focus on the American Dream about 4 or 5 years ago, after that project had been stalled through bankruptcy, through the financial crisis, the Lehman bankruptcy. Everything went wrong. That place was totally snake bit, and Chris Christie called it the ugliest building in New Jersey, which, not a lot of competition even outside of New Jersey for that moniker.
Just watch it, buddy. You're talking I was
wondering how that was going to play out. Wow.
You're lucky you're thousands of miles away from me, Gittleson. I'm just saying, but I know where you live, so just watch it.
We got plenty of ugly buildings out here, too.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, to your point about sort of snake bit, I mean, there's a name familiar to our audience, and certainly to you, John, because I know you and I both covered him, and Carol has over the years too. I mean, Tom Barrack, had his pause on this at some point. It was called Xanadu, and he notably, in the story I wrote almost 12 years ago, called it Xanadon't. I mean, it was just a disaster in many ways, and it's turned out to be similar for this family. I mean, in part because of the pandemic, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, they were just ready to roll in March, and this place has like indoor ski slope. It has water park, has theme parks. I mean, the idea is that a shopping mall wasn't just a place to buy a bunch of stuff. It was a place to have experiences, and people would come, as they have to their other big projects, not only to, shop, but to have a day at the theme park or whatever. And unfortunately, in our new era of social distancing, I don't think people are going to want to hang out in the water park. They're not going to, eat at the food court. They're not going to enjoy all of the things that were supposed to be special attractions to a giant mega mall like this, and distinguish it from buying online or going to some factory outlet or some other, place where you could get in, get out, and just buy your stuff and leave.
So you do wonder, John, are they going to have to change their model dramatically? Are they just going to have to be patient until there's a vaccine, which we know is not quite around the corner? And at the same time, how much time do they have? I mean, what do they got? Something like, is it $5 billion in debt? Is that with all their properties, or is that just American Dream?
They've got $5 billion on the West Edmonton Mall, the Mall of America, and the American Dream combined.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly how long they've got. Part of the deal is it's like that old J. Paul Getty expression, if you owe the bank $100, it's a problem for you. If you owe the bank $100 million, it's a problem for the bank.
Yeah.
And, these guys owe so much money. They're also such big scale operators that it would be hard to find somebody to replace them. I mean, these things are like operating a Universal Studios park or Disney park or something like that. In fact, the one in the American Dream is the DreamWorks Park, another movie studio.
Yeah.
So, how do you get somebody who has all the operational skills that these guys do, all the connections with retailers, and, sort of the track record? And that's part of their issue. It's a very interesting family saga, too. I mean, the grandfather of the guy who's in charge of the American Dream brought his family over from Iran. They were like rug merchants, moved to Canada, went from rugs to retail to, real estate.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing tale. So you'll have to, unfortunately, we're out of time, but do check it out on the Bloomberg terminal and on Bloomberg.com. John Gittleson, love catching up with you. One of our best reporters, especially on sort of the retail investment world, real estate investment world, I should say. Great to catch up with him.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the IPO market, so we have a good guest to do that in just a moment. Let's get back to World and National News headlines. Back over to Ed Baxter. Hey, Ed.
Hey. Okay, Carol, on the day that George Floyd is laid to rest, President Donald Trump has suggested the 75-year-old Buffalo man pushed to the ground by police was a provocateur, exaggerating his fall. Angry response from New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
I mean, if there was ever a reprehensible, dumb comment, and from the President of the United States, at this moment of anguish and anger, what does he do? Pours gasoline on the fire.
This as presidential contender Joe Biden spoke directly to the family of George Floyd.
Jill and I know the deep hole in your hearts when you bury a piece of your soul deep in this earth. As I've said to you privately, we know you will never feel the same again.
And police departments like New York try to come to some form of reform.
A chokehold ban for the NYPD. A bill that will affirm every individual's right to record their interactions with police officers.
And Mayor Bill de Blasio says visible shield numbers ensure early intervention on officers. Meanwhile, New York, a remarkable reporting data as only 1% of those tested for coronavirus tested positive. And New Jersey announcing a lifting of the stay-at-home order and urged caution on reopening. And some Harry Potter Twitter stuff. Daniel Radcliffe has responded to a tweet from J.K. Rowling. He says transgender women are women. Her tweet was that women were people who menstruate. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon N.A. Member FDIC.
Jenny Liss, Jewish communal leader and philanthropist, talks about why she chose the Jewish Communal Fund for her family's charitable giving.
For a lot of people, it would be the convenience factor. I don't have to track anything.
If charitable giving is an important part of your life, JCF can help you organize your philanthropy with our donor-advised fund. A fund can be established with a minimum tax-deductible contribution of $5,000. Make grants to your favorite charities, and JCF handles all the administration and reporting.
At the year end, our board awards community grants, from fees and endowment income to UJ's annual campaign. We also make gifts to specific organizations, the elderly, Holocaust survivors, the hungry. The fact that we come together as a community at the end of the year to build community, that's what makes us different.
Get better at giving back. To find out more about JCF's impact, visit jcfny.org and download the Giving Report. JCF, we have a gift for giving.
You're living in
This is a message from the government about the emergency measures to support the economy during the period of disruption caused by the coronavirus. To help you, your business, and your workers affected, you can apply for cash grants, business rate holidays, statutory sick pay relief packages, as well as the coronavirus job retention and self-employment income support schemes. For information, go to gov.uk/business-support now.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games. With Game Replay on TuneIn, you can hear every matchup of the 2019-2020 season so far. And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening.
Okay, here we go.
With the NFL draft in the books and the schedule set, check out a TuneIn podcast for daily updates on the lead up to the 2020 season, like the Ringer NFL Show, where a rotating